And Carnival Girl.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
We good?
Yeah.
All right. First of all, congratulations on this album.
Oh,
I thought Hobo was a masterpiece, and this is another step beyond that. So, talk about going into this. What were kind of your hopes and dreams and ground rules going into this record?
Well, what was funny about it was we knew we were going to make another solo record, and we just started recording stuff for it. And we didn't really. Brad Davis, who co-wrote, the record with me. I mean, I mainly do the lyrics, and then he and I write the music together. And we just started writing stuff. We didn't really pay any attention to what it was. So what ended up happening is that we would have 2 or 3 songs that sounded kind of like AC/DC, and a couple that sounded like Chris Christopherson kidding around. But that's my 3-year-old. But we would have country stuff, country rock stuff, and then harder rock stuff, and then kind of singer-songwriter things. So we had demoed about 25 songs, and we would have 6 or 7 songs that would fit a record. So we had, like 3 records of stuff that, didn't total up to one record. And it just so happened that the last 12 songs we wrote are the ones that are on the record. So we kind of fought through all of that, and we loved what we were doing, but there wasn't a real direction yet, And then I wrote this song called It's Just Me, which is the first song on the record. And that kind of told us, okay, this is sort of pieces of all these other things we've been doing, so there's a direction. And everything that was in the news at the time was all about the war and also just personal loss. There was so much on the news of, human interest stories about, somebody overcoming something or whatever. And I just started thinking about how now life and death are so important in our world, both on a personal level and a global level and everything. And yet we've become so desensitized to it. But when it becomes personal to you, even if it is huge, I mean, if you're thinking about the war in Iraq, and you hear the numbers, 9 soldiers were killed this week, and we hear it as a number. But then those families are going through something on a much more personal level. So I really decided that this record should be about life and death, and living and dying, and how important it is to confront both. And how we relate to the people around us in those terms and everything. So that's really what the record is. And the only thing I would say that's different about this one, or the major thing that's different about this one, is the fact that I've got 3 sort of political songs on it. I mean, there's anti-war songs on the record. And normally I don't write about broader topics. I usually write more personal stuff. Mm-hmm.
Well, you do have a lot of personal stuff on this record, though. And doing that, talk about the cathartic experience. We talk about this in the roles you played and how that's important to you, and how in writing these songs, how much of that is important just to kind of spill your guts? How much of that is for you? How much of that do you want the listener to kind of think, oh, that's Billy singing, that's what's going on with him?
Well, I don't mind that, as you know. I mean, we've talked about it before. I'm not shy about spilling my personal business. I mean, not all of it, but some of it. And if it's something I feel strongly about, I certainly don't mind writing a personal song. The problem is when you're well known, and say you're associated with other well-known people, whether it's a friend of mine like Matt Damon or whoever it is, and I wrote a song about an actor that seemed to be kind of about him. It might not really be about him. Or a song about Angie. I mean, like everybody assumes anytime I write a song about a girl, it's about Angie, but it's really not. There have been some, but, and there may be more, but sometimes a song will sound really personal and sound like your own experience, and yet it may be about somebody you know, or it may be pieces of something of mine and then pieces of somebody else's, but I find, and maybe it is because I'm an actor. I mean, maybe it is because, and a screenwriter also. I think you kind of write from a very personal point of view most of the time.
Mm-hmm. So we're coming off the last record. You got into this, I remember talking to you right after that, and you were already well into songs for this one, and you mentioned the process earlier, but that's something you're always doing? Like you're already working on stuff that'll probably be on the next record? Is that when you come back from a set and you finish a film? Is that kind of your lifeblood in some ways?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely my lifeblood. I think, writing songs and recording songs is probably, in a lot of ways, it's my best sort of outlet. I think it's probably better in a lot of ways. Definitely more so than writing movies. Acting sometimes can be pretty cathartic. You get your yah-yahs out on a character every now and then. But I would say songwriting and recording would have to be where I get more reflective, and it keeps me going, because I'm the kind of guy who has to be doing something all the time. Mm-hmm. And music is much more immediate than movies. I mean, in movies, you go out on the set and you do pieces of something. You're not doing an entire thing at once. It's just a piece here and there. And then when people see the movie, I'm not there to see their reaction or anything. With music, everything's more immediate. You write a song, you record it, and then you go play live for people. So it works out pretty nice that way in music, I find.
Mm-hmm. I think you never sounded as good as you sound in this album vocally. You're trying to do new things and take it to kind of another level, either likely with your voice.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, it's funny because I had to give up music for such a long period of time. I grew up in the music business, and that's all I ever did, and then became an actor, and that's where I was making my living for a while. And before I could choose when to work as an actor, I had to kind of do it all the time, and had to give up music for a bit. And then when we first started talking, 7, 8 years ago, when we did our first record, it got easier because I could choose when to work and when to make a record. And so as we went along, I think, like anything else, it's a muscle of some sort. Whether it's a spiritual muscle or an actual muscle or whatever, singing and playing and everything, it just gets better the more you do it. And so when I started again several years back, with each record, I think I sing better. I play drums better. I'm practicing again as a drummer, which makes me feel good. It's like being a teenager again, where you're working towards something, And this last record, I played drums on everything. So, instead of just, it's like, well, I grew up as a drummer, so every now and then the band would say, hey, why don't you sit in on drums on this one? Well, that's different than where you're having to carry the load. Mm-hmm. And so now that I'm playing on everything, I get down there in the studio every day and practice like the old days. Mm-hmm. And so I think, as a drummer, a songwriter, a singer, I think, I'm getting better all the time. We're already into the next record, which is the band's record. It's next spring sometime we're going to put out a record called the Box Masters, and that's the name for our band. And they're my same guys. So when we play live, the Box Masters open for me. So I'm the lead singer for the Box Masters. So basically, I'm opening for myself.
That'll be fun.
So it's kind of a fun thing. But the Box Masters are a whole different world. It's sort of rockabilly, kind of old-fashioned hillbilly mixed with a little psychobilly.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty great.
Looking forward to that.
Oh yeah.
You got some of the catchiest, kind of sweetest melodies on this that you've had on your records, along with some of the darkest thematics. Is that kind of a conscious effort to kind of marry some of the prettier choruses and things to some of the more somber songs? There's a kind of a light there at the end of the tunnel in the chorus.
Yeah, I think so. We really did, on most of the songs, we would purposely go against the nature of the lyrics sometimes, and make, prettier choruses, I always liked that. I always liked, pretty melodies that went against the dark, subject. So we absolutely did that on purpose.
Talk about this album in terms of like your own musical legacy now, because you've been doing this for a while. It's your 4th record. You've been doing music your whole life, but to have a record like this now that, is, I think, so well done, it kind of puts you in the place of some of these guys that are been your heroes for so long. Is that is that a proud thing? You must be conscious of some of that. That
Wow.
these people that you know, you've become friends with a lot of them, that actually put this out today.
Yeah, it's, you know, I'm feeling a little more part of the club. I mean, fortunately for me, I don't get as much stuff from people about an actor making a record as a lot of actors do, but I guess because I run more in musical circles than I do movie circles, and so I've been accepted with a lot of my heroes, you know, which is really great. And the guys, in terms of songwriting, you know, it's guys like Warren Zevon or Robbie Robertson or Chris Christopherson, Cash and Willie Nelson, you know, John Prine. And so these days, those guys actually consider me a peer, you know, which is really more than I could have ever dreamed of, you know. And with this record, I feel real confident, you know. I mean, like, maybe with the records in the past, I would be really embarrassed to play my stuff to Christopherson or somebody, you know. And now I hear from him, and you know, when I send him something, and he'll call back with a comment or send me a word about it that doesn't make me feel like he's talking down to me. I mean, not that he ever did, but when he says something about it, it's just like two songwriters talking to each other. And God knows I'll never be as good as that guy. I mean, very few people will. But just to feel like I'm in the same world as those guys is just amazing to me, and it feels really great.
Mm-hmm. A couple of these songs, we can talk just kind of thematically, like In the Day, and what you were trying to do with that one. Because that's something, as I'm getting older, something I found myself kind of battling with as well, the whole push and pull between the past and
Sure.
what's going on. You can talk about where you were with that song and what you were trying to say with that one.
Well, In the Day, excuse me, In the Day is a song that I really set out from the beginning to write. You know, most of the songs, they kind of come to me, but this one, I just said, look, I got to write a song about how things are going. And a guy said to me the other day, it's a real interesting comment. He said, this sounds like, you know, you're a pretty liberal guy, you're a Hollywood guy, but this sounds kind of like a conservative song, you know, talking about Main Street and the way things used to be. I said, no, it's actually quite the contrary. It's actually the fact that baby boomers are missing the sort of originality and the mom and pop organizations and a simpler life and everything, you know. And if you think about it, it's really the conservatives who have, it's the conservatives who have, with corporate America and everything, that's what's kind of destroyed Main Street. So in a funny way, guys like me, who I grew up as a hippie, so all of a sudden I'm waving the flag of Main Street and apple pie and America as it was. And I find that's true in a lot of, you know, more liberal people or people who grew up in the hippie era, you know. And, but really the song In the Day is just saying, well, look, we know it needed a lot of work back then too. We understand we had the Vietnam War, there was a lot of stuff, Watergate. So the world always kind of needed fixing. But still, there was something about it then. It had a vibe, and there was a real creativity at that time. And you could walk into the general store, and the guy knew your name. And there's something about that that we're really missing now, and that's what that song's about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And Pretty People. You can talk about that, because that's something that someone as a member of the media too, I'm often lamenting this growing up, especially working a lot of newsrooms before I was doing harder news and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, there's some, you just talk a little about that, and was there one specific event that made you kind of?
Pretty People was written because the idea was given to me by Jim Ladd, the radio DJ. I think you have to say radio personality these days. I think Jim's still cool with DJ, but
I think there's a couple actual records, yeah.
Exactly. We were on the way to see Roger Waters, his show at the Hollywood Bowl, and we were talking about the JonBenet Ramsey case, is that it? Yeah. And the Scott Peterson, Lacey Peterson deal. And you need that again because of the bird?
No.
You good?
Yeah.
but yeah, we're just talking about that whole subject about how, if you notice, if they're pretty white people that are, middle class to upper middle class or beyond, stories seem to stay in the news for a long time. And in the song, it even says if you're poor or red or black, it seems like the stories disappear a lot quicker. So Scott Peterson kills his wife and puts her in the bay, and she's pregnant and everything. And I was telling Jim, I said, well, that same thing has probably happened in West Virginia or Michigan or Louisiana or someplace. It probably happened a couple of times that month when that happened, but we never heard about it. And I said, it always just seems like the pretty people are the ones who stay on the news. And he goes, you have to promise me as soon as you get home, you're going to write a song called Pretty People. And I did. I came home and wrote it that night. And it's really just about that, how the media seems to dwell on the rich and famous, and these days you don't even have to be rich and famous. You can be made rich and famous if you belong to a certain echelon, and that's really what sparked that song.
Exactly. I was talking to Arlen before you came in, a day like today when everyone's talking about Lindsay Lohan and stuff like that. And
yeah.
What's your take on that whole kind of thing?
Yeah, it's just so bizarre to me that people care so much. And it seems that celebrities, the biggest celebrities now, don't even really have an art form, I mean, some of them are just socialites, or they're actors or actresses who are in movies that are just silly. It's about a banana that flies to Mars or whatever, but they're like the biggest celebrities, and I always, feel fortunate that I'm not one of those. I mean, I'd rather be an actor who's, moderately known, just enough so people will come see my movies, or with my records. I just want to sell enough records so I can keep making records, and that's the truth. But when you see that kind of thing, it's always weird to me. But we used to blame the system, and you can blame the media, you can blame the system, you can blame the studios or the record labels, all you want to. But now, we kind of have to hold the people accountable too. Because, believe me, a movie studio or a record label or whatever they are, or a news show, they're not going to broadcast or press something that's not going to sell. So, I think people need to get back to their roots a little bit more, and then maybe you'll have a little bit less of, watching whatever starlet, crashed into a tree recently.
Sure, yeah. Talk about your thoughts on a day like this when your album comes out. How excited do you get? You've had some albums. You've obviously had a lot of movies. What kind of feelings when you wake up in the morning? Is it still an exciting feeling? Is it you have a new kind of piece of art or something in the marketplace, in the public consciousness?
Yeah, I'm still very excited. I mean, first of all, I'm still a fan. I'm a big fan of like actors and actresses and musicians and everything. And I'm excited when their stuff comes out, and I get excited about my own. Today, the day of the record release, it's exciting, and you try to walk that line. Don't get too excited. Wait and see if it does okay. One thing I know is, just like when I made Sling Blade, I told people at the time, I said, I made this movie for my mom and my family and my friends, and if anybody beyond that likes it, then that's just gravy. That's the way I'm looking at this record, because I know that we did our job on it. I know that the songs are sincere, they're honest, and I know that we played them as well as we could play them. And there are only 4 of us on the record, it's just me and Lee Sklar and Teddy Andriotis and Brad Davis playing on this record. And we just got in the studio and did it. And then Graham Nash was kind enough to come sing a background vocal on 3 songs. So, it was a small unit, and Jim Mitchell and JD, the engineers, and it was just a little group of us that did it. And so it felt kind of like Sling Blade, But I know that I'm confident that we did what we set out to do. So I'm able to get a little more excited this time simply because I know if 5 people buy this record, then I'm not going to feel bad about it because I know we did it. Mm-hmm. And you know, if 10,000 buy it or if 100,000 buy it, it's the same for me, one way or the other.
Is there an epiphany? Is there some moment at 3 in the morning when you guys are down there that it kind of clicks and you know what you're talking about is true? Like, all right, we did it, guys. Is there a certain time when it all kind of comes together for you?
There are a few of those times. You know, when we had the first couple of songs recorded and we finessed them a little bit, we knew we were onto something, and that was a real good feeling. But I think the day that we had our final mix and we all sat down there and just listened to it, we just knew that this was a really good, honest record with, you know, that got all the feelings across, and sonically we're real happy with it, you know. So yeah, I think when we sat down after it was all said and done and listened to it as record listeners, I think that was really when it all occurred to me that it was good.
Mm-hmm. Talk about this cool guy here in these pictures. How much fun that is. Those are some of the cooler rock pictures I've seen of you.
You know, it's so funny. I didn't intend to do this, but Tom Waits is a good friend, and I just admire that guy so much. And when I saw these pictures, this picture here, like for instance, we good there? I thought, you know what? I just copped one of Tom's hats there, didn't I? You know. But yeah, I thought these were kind of representative of the vibe, you know, and all of that.
Looking at those pictures now, is that you? Is that the real you, or is that a character? Is that Tom? Is that something you were having fun with that day?
I was having a little bit of fun that day. Miriam Santos took these pictures. She's a great photographer. She's been photographing me for years. And it's kind of hard when somebody's photographing you who knows you really well, because you can't be serious as easy. And I think I was just trying to goof off a little bit, you know, and the hat was just kind of a, you know, I wanted to get a little bit of the old, I had been watching this blues series that the guys over at Universal gave me, some old, the blues guys, you know, Howlin' Wolf and Sonny Boy Williamson and those guys, Muddy Waters, they used to do these European tours, and if you don't have these, you got to get them. As a matter of fact, I'll give you one while you're here. They're amazing, and it shows these guys back in the early to mid 60s, touring Europe, and they had these shows over there, and they've remastered them and everything. And there were a couple of those guys, Willie Dixon, guys like that would wear those little hats, and I was kind of in a mood for one of those when we did those pictures. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk. You've had kind of a recent spate of comedies recently, with another one coming out pretty soon. Just talk about kind of that. You're probably already shooting something much darker as we speak,
right.
For all I know. But this little period you're in right now, before I think things get darker again for you, role-wise, and this album kind of pops out in the middle of all that with kind of like what's going on inside Billy. But talk about kind of this period you're in artistically.
Well, you're right, I have done a few comedies lately. An Astronaut Farmer was a drama, but yet it had a lot of humor and whimsy to it, you know. Yeah, Mr. Woodcock's coming out in September, another dark comedy, along the lines of Bad Santa, only it takes place in the gym. I think I'm done with comedies for the moment. The way I started out as an actor was in, you know, more serious independent films and darker stuff, and I got a couple of those that I'm doing next, and I'm ready for it. I feel very ready to get in there and bite off something that's pretty big to chew. You know? Yeah.
We have a little something we want to give you.
Oh, excellent.
Where did it go? Here. Yeah. Just by coincidence, Chris is wearing a shirt. We don't know how big of a Clash fan you
Oh, I love the Clash.
All right, well-
My brother Jimmy, who died. You remember my brother Jimmy? I told you about who he wrote
Uh-huh.
a couple of songs on my second record.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy was a huge Clash fan, and he's the one who got me into him. You
Check this out.
gotta be kidding me! Wow, with the moniker and everything. How about, my gosh?
Fix that up for you.
Wow.
That's the Joe Strummer
Yeah.
Fender guitar.
That is unbelievable. How about that? Hey guys. Hey, come check this out.
It's supposedly tuned. They'll know. They'll know.
Yeah, it's kinda. It's semi-tuned.
Right.
Not really. It's in some. If it's tuned, it's in an open tune.
All right. Well, it was our art director,
So-
too, not a musician. So.
But so check this out. So these are the guys in the band. These are box masters, extraordinaires, and so they just gave me this. Extra just gave me this guitar. It's the Joe Strummer
Yeah.
model with my initials, the whole deal.
Go down there and put that to work.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you can see everybody. Mike Shipp here, Mike Butler, Teddy Andriotis here. Where's Mike Bruce, Mike Butler, J.D. Andrew, and we got 3 mics in the band. And Brad Davis, who was my co-writer on Beautiful Door, who's not here.
Yeah.
He's tardy, but he'll be here. But anyway, so these are the guys. And Teddy was the keyboard player on you, right?
That's me, I think.
Teddy played organ and piano on Beautiful Door.
Mm-hmm.
JD did some of the engineering on that. Jim Mitchell, who engineered it and co-produced it's not here. And Mike and I have been playing together. Like you've heard me talk about Trace Hombres, the
Sure, of
ZZ
course,
Top
yeah.
tribute act I played in. Mike was the guitar player and singer in that band.
Wow.
That's back during
And,
the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And
How
the rest
comfortable
of us
sitting
were-
here amongst these guys? Is this kind of it for you artistically? Is this what it's all about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are, we're kind of like any other band, you know, we have our disagreements. There's a couple of us that don't speak to each other. But I told them, as long as we're on camera, just act like we get along, you know. I mean, we have Mike Butler actually here. He's kind of the George Harrison of the Box Masters. We won't let him put any of his songs on the record. We give him 1 or 2 a record.
Well, he's got that restraining order.
And he does
too.
have that restraining order. When he decided, just as George Harrison did, to go seek spiritual guidance and everything, how George went to India, Mike went to Indiana, and got with, instead of a guru, he met this auto mechanic, and he's kind of studying with him now. But yeah, but this is great, guys. Thank you. That's pretty cool, isn't it, Teddy?
Yeah.
Isn't that nice? And then check the back out. Yeah. That's really great.
It's just about worn in enough.
Yeah, it really is. So we may have to bring this out on tour. So one of their guys tuned it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't me.
It wasn't Adam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not far.
Oh, wow.
Not far off.
Like,
Yeah, it's good. He got close.
You guys don't know
But-
what to do with it. Yeah.
But
It's not
also,
quite a Far East tune, but it's
Right.
it's on out there.
It's close.
Reminds me of some of that Indiana tunings I was using before.
but it is. But in his defense, I mean, it was probably banged around in the wagon on the way over here. You know,
Right.
a little bit.
Been
So
on a couple
anyway.
shoots today. Yeah. Yeah. We'll let you guys all get back in the studio.
Well, thanks, Adam.
Thanks.